Namaskar. I want to talk about suffering. Suffering is significant on the spiritual path. Myself, I don't like suffering. I don't like suffering like at all. I like to be, fairly comfortable. At least some basic comfort should be there. Some people, they like also suffering. Like I have one friend, he really likes. If there is no hot water, he is like, yeah, asceticism, fight with the nature, establish superiority over nature, be free, overcome. So, yeah, I like more comfort, but I realize the necessity of suffering. We should not undermine the role of suffering in spiritual life. There are few, like my spiritual master, he says few things. He says, you must be ready for all sorts of suffering. Let suffering be your asset. Suffering will help you establish ideal society. You must be ready for all sorts of suffering. Let suffering be your asset. Not something undesirable, desirable. It's good, because suffering is going to help you establish an ideal society. So quite strong words to meditate. Another time he mentions, he says, you must be always ready to accept all suffering as a reward and become an ideal son of the Cosmic Father. I thought that, what is this? What it means? What kind of reward is that? Normally it is against, it goes ultra-wise to our psychology. I do something good, I want to get something good also. I don't want to get something bad. But this is an ideal of Shiva Nilakanta. In Indian mythology, there is this fundamental figure, Sadashiva, the great yogi, the father of human civilization. So Shiva, according to the mythology, he drinks ocean of poison. Why? To liberate human beings from that poisons. So I will drink myself, and I will digest it within myself. That's why he became Nilakanta, the blue throat. His throat become blue. So the idea is you take suffering in, but what comes in is suffering, but what comes out is nectar. Very, very interesting ideal, and also very practical. It's not only noble, but is also practical. So this idea that you should be always ready to accept all suffering as a reward and become an ideal son of the Cosmic Father is the idea that I will be happy to take the problem and resolve that problem. That pain come here, will stop here, and will not go further. Normally we are reproducing the suffering. The suffering comes, hits me, I become angry. Even you observe in your own family. Something happened at your job, then you come home and you try to transmit your pain to somebody else. Don't we do like that? We also do like that. And here idea is that, no, I take it and I will be happy that I was the agent of stopping the suffering. After me, the suffering didn't go further. The idea of Shiva Nilakanta. Why suffering is necessary? I think few things are there. Number one, the suffering is there to balance our mind. When we do an action, that action leaves an imprint in our mind. That imprint is called samskara. in Sanskrit. A deformation within the mind. So if the action, original action, was of pleasant nature, that samskara, when it is ripening and expressing, when to balance the mind into the original state, you have to experience also pleasure. But if that action was painful, to balance the mind and bring it into the original state, into the state of balance, and in the state of balance only the mind is able to develop. So for the development of the mind, you have to remove the samskara. You have to remove that distortion. So if the action was painful, to remove that distortion from the mind, you have to experience pain. So that is the sublime role of suffering. The suffering helps us to move closer to the divine. And actually suffering, or pain, you can say, pain. One friend of mine, suddenly he just produced, I don't know where he read it or what he saw, suddenly he says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I said, wow, what a wise words. Because you experience pain, according to your karma, that is inevitable. But whether you're going to suffer, whether you're going to take it negatively, is up to you. You can take it positively also. I know one man, he said, I like to be sick. So why? Yeah, because that time I feel so miserable. It forces me to remember the Supreme all the time. I like, hold the feet of God. I'm suffering. And he said, when I'm in pleasure, I don't remember God as much. So that is one example how he takes positively suffering, the pain. So that is one thing, to establish a balance in the mind, to liberate you from certain consequences of the past actions you have done. That's why you have to go through tough times. And after those tough times, there will be realizations, understandings. So many times when you encounter suffering, the result of that you understand something higher, something you couldn't understand. The suffering is forcing you to understand. That's very important. So that's we see also in human level and the large level, on the macro level. Humanity makes leaps after the great sufferings. Something big happens into the collective psyche of humanity. And we progress to a more safe, more secure, more harmonious, more fair society after the great suffering. Because we understand something. The suffering forces us to understand. So that's very important functions. Another function is to learn compassion. If you never suffered, how you can feel the suffering of others? That is why when we experience suffering, we understand, oh, I would never wish this to happen to anyone. You become compassionate. The opposite of compassion is when you are happy when somebody is suffering. Huh? Kind of jealousy, kind of bad state of the mind. It is said, Maitri Karuna, Mudito Pekshanam, Maitri Karuna, Mudito Pekshanam, Sukha Dukha, Punya Punya, Bhavanatah Chitta Prasadanam. It means Maitri, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekshanam. The four attitudes you have to cultivate. Sukha, Dukha, towards happy people, feel you are friendly. Towards unhappy people, feel compassionate. Towards successful people, feel joyful. And towards people who are doing mistakes, feel indifferent. don't engage yourself. Anyway, this is not the topic. Sometime later I will speak. But normally people, when somebody suffers, people feel like, yeah, this is, you have deserved it. So they feel joy at the suffering of others. And this is a very toxic psychic state. Rather, if you want to be balanced, you should feel like, okay, if I would be in the place of that person, how would I feel? Would I want that or not? And then you say, no, nobody should have this kind of suffering. So suffering sometimes develops compassion. But there is a challenge also. When you experience pain, many times we become very egoistic when we experience pain. When we are sick, for example, we become oblivious of the needs of others. Everything is me. And something, when we hurt also, everything is me. And it's just like instinctual behavior. There is a dog, and you hit the dog with the stick many times. One time the dog will bite you, because it feels like, what is this going on? I'm getting with the stick all the time. So the dog will, aggressively bite you back. So this is our natural reaction towards injustice, etc. We become aggressive, and we want to desire the destruction of others. But if you look at this philosophically, I am suffering not because of anybody. I'm suffering because of myself. I have created the seeds of suffering in the past sometime. This life, last life, lives before. I have created the seeds of suffering. Now the seeds of suffering are sprouting. I earn my salary. What I have done today, I'm getting. So fine, you will get it, you will be free. The mind will become balanced, you can spiritually evolve, spiritually progress from now on. But no, I will not do that. I will become angry, I will hate, and I will desire to inflict suffering on others. And I will inflict, and I will create a new suffering in my life. New seeds. Those seeds will be ripening maybe 10 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 200 years, maybe 300 years. But they will be there, and the one moment they will again come and again manifest as suffering. So again now, the Shiva Nilakanta ideal is most practical here. You take the pain, take the bitterness, but back you give nectar. You cut the cycle of pain. Otherwise, you drink your cup of pain, but then you always sow some more. You always seed some seeds of suffering, so that you are not feeling bored in the future, that you are again going to endure the suffering in the future. So this is very, very hard to remember how not to harden your heart in the times when you suffer, but how to soften your heart and to actually learn love and compassion in this kind of circumstances. This is very, very hard lesson for us. I was impressed. Yeah, never mind. So, yeah, I think this is the spiritual role of suffering. Of course, our psychology is Sukha Nurakti Parama Javivriti. Searching and running after happiness is the main property of any living being. Suffering is unnatural for us, we don't want, but sometimes it is inevitable due to that we have created it in the past. And then also, we should think. Normally we don't notice the suffering of others. We just doesn't exist. For example, billions of animals being slaughtered every year. Billions, not millions, billions. And animals, they are just other humans. This pig is the same human as I am, actually. I mean, there is no much difference. It wants to live, I also want to live. It feels pain, I also feel pain. It feels fear. It also loves the progeny. It also loves the other pigs. They're like, they do have emotions. They do have feelings. Everything what we have. So basically, pig is also a human, if I would say like that. Yes, it doesn't have rationality. It's not so smart as we are. But at the level of feelings, at the level of life, is same. And we grow them in unspeakable conditions of suffering. We slaughter them mercilessly. And normally we don't notice. We feel it's okay. But anything little bit comes to us, we feel so angry and so much injustice. Of course, nobody should hurt anybody. This is the most fundamental principle of morality. We should learn not to hurt, but we should also think that the entire living world is just like us. I want to live, everybody wants to live. So sometimes when I experience pain, I should think that, oh yes, other people also, means other people like pigs, other people like cows, other people like chickens, they also experience pain. And this world, the suffering will only stop when we stop to perpetuate it. Only that time the harmony will be established. And world, in India, I like sometimes to go, there is a place Rishikesh near Himalayas, and there is one village there, Ram Jula, Lakshman Jula. Meat is forbidden. So when you go there, meat, alcohol is forbidden. Tamasic energy is outlawed. So when you go there, you feel even animals, they are so happy. There is a cow in the street and it's just like everybody is, giving love to this cow. And the cow is like, yeah, what a life, great life. The dogs are so happy. Everybody is so happy. That atmosphere of happiness is in entire village, entire city, this atmosphere of happiness. People have rejected the idea of harming other beings. What a beautiful world we could have just by simple changing our attitudes to other creatures. And if we don't, then that energy is going to be here. We maintain that energy. And that energy is going to hurt us also, because it is inevitable. It is a law of nature. So it's very important as a part of spirituality, part of humanity, to not eat meat, to become vegetarian. Very, very important. Not to perpetuate the suffering. Okay? So, I know this is very hard for anybody. For me also, I feel it's very, very hard. Especially I don't like suffering, as I told you. But this ideal of Shiva Nilakanta, when you take bitterness inside and when you give sweetness to others, that we should pursue. That we should pursue, and this is the only way. Because if we get bitter, then we also give bitter. That's not going to stop. It's going to go and go and go. But love, when you give out the love, love perseveres. It will be transmitted from one person to another, to another, to another, to another. I remember I came from university to see my spiritual teacher. So he said, "Are you hungry?" He said, I say, no, I'm not hungry. I'm very shy. Yeah, you must be hungry. Already is it lunch? Did you take lunch? I said, no. No, you must be hungry. Go meditate. So I went, I did some meditation. I come back, he bought for me like 2-3 potatoes. Then he gave to me. Oh, I tell you, these were the sweetest, the most beautiful potatoes of my life. Because that is love. He gave me with love. He cared for me. I ate those potatoes. You know how much impacted my mind? It has created huge wave on my mind. That action of love, it has changed me. So I don't know in what way, but definitely his love already it's gone out many times. So it multiplies also. When you do the action of kindness, when you do the action of love, it multiplies, it goes. And it's going to travel entire world, and it's going to, inspire another world. So this is swallow the bitterness, give back love. This is the higher meaning of those things about suffering. That's why let's take suffering as a reward and become ideal son of the cosmic father, and then let suffering be your asset. It will help you establish in the ideal society. You take the suffering positively. It will help you remember the Supreme. It helps to change the mind, to go to the high altitude of thinking, to become compassionate. So ultimately, it is there for a reason on this earth. And I'm sure we are going to the society where slowly, suffering is going to be eliminated. Step by step. But we have to work for it. We have to wish for it. We have to think for it. And yeah. And remember about other humans like pigs and cows. Those cows, they're also humans. Understand that. Don't think they are some lowly creatures. They are humans also. Just like you are, just like I am. Namaskar.